we're going to go ahead and get started. So most importantly, I want to welcome the governor to Long Beach, but I also want to welcome many of my colleagues from up and down the state, mayors as well as police chiefs, and we also have some of the members of our legislature here, and so to everyone, thank you. And also to Melissa and the team here for welcoming us, I just want to thank you also. Let me say that we are incredibly grateful that Governor Newsom earlier today brought together mayors from across the state of California and police chiefs across the state of California to talk about issues around crime, around gun violence, and the gun epidemic that is happening really across the country, but also here in the state of California. The governor is committed to ensuring that we are investing in communities, that we're trying to prevent crime before it happens, and that we're trying to get guns off our street. We've seen that guns and the purchase of guns has dramatically increased, about 65% across the country in the last year. Here in Long Beach alone, we are taking 50% more guns off the street and arresting more people with guns than ever before. And that is happening, by the way, up and down the state of California. So there's a gun violence issue in the state, and it's something the governor is committed to addressing. And then, of course, we are also here to discuss and talk about the importance of taking on retail theft and theft in our communities here as well. On behalf of all of the mayors, we are grateful that the governor convened us this morning for an important conversation and one that will continue around ensuring that California is safe and a safe place for everyone to live. And with that, I want to introduce one of my colleagues who was with us earlier this morning, and that is the governor of our sister city, the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Garcetti.
Thank you. Thank you. No, don't worry. He meant mayor. Thank you so much to my brother mayor and dear friend, Mayor Garcia. It's great to be here in Long Beach. Thank you to our assembly members who are here, to our incredible governor and our chiefs. We're all trying to keep this under a minute, so I'm going to be brief. Look, crime is down in Los Angeles, but violent crime is up. And we've seen homicides across our country and in our city, as well as shootings, go up as well. That is our first job, to protect lives, to protect livelihoods. And that's why I'm so proud that this governor and our legislature have put forward $227 million for Cal VIP to help us in the best-in-country examples like our GRID program, our Gang Reduction Youth Development Program, where we're putting 40 more peacemakers on the streets now. When folks say, what are you doing? We are putting bodies, we are putting good policing, and we are putting good practices on the ground. And I want to thank Chief Moore and all the law enforcement officers. Being a police officer is a noble profession. We thank the guardians that are out there while we evolve it to its next evolution. And secondly, we're also lifting up those who don't always wear a badge, whether it's mental health care workers, those who are gang interventionists, people who deal with sexual and domestic violence. You too have a role to play, and thanks to our business community for being a part of that. También en español yo quiero decir es importante reducir la violencia en nuestras comunidades. El nivel de crimen es más bajo este año del año pasado, pero juntos, especialmente con esta asamblea y este gobernador y los alcaldes y los jefes de policía de este estado, tenemos la oportunidad con estas inversiones en el presupuesto a dar finalmente dinero a las comunidades que merecen este dinero. Muchísimas gracias, and with that, I'll hand it over to a great mayor. She's one of our newest mayors in the state, but an amazing public leader already and peer among us, Patricia Lockdawson, the mayor of Riverside. Gracias.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome everybody. And I want to thank Governor Newsom for bringing us all together today. You know, before my time as mayor of Riverside, I spent almost a decade. I served on the California Board of Behavioral Sciences in both the Schwarzenegger and the Brown administrations. And for those of you that don't know, they oversee all the mental health professionals in the state. So having this experience and knowing the mental health challenges that our state faces, I was pleased to see the funding for mental health services as a priority in the California Comeback Plan. Addressing our mental health crisis on our streets with a $3 billion focus on behavioral health, our housing initiative will create tens of thousands of beds for people with serious mental illness. And so I commend Governor Newsom and the legislature for making this a particularly important investment in our state. In Riverside, we share this sense of urgency when it comes to addressing mental health and behavioral health issues. In May, our city was successful in working with our county to implement Laura's Law as a critical step in addressing Riverside's own needs. But of course, people need a place to go, and they need a place to go to get services. And so this investment and the working with these underlying causes of criminal activity, it's an important part of this calculus. So it allows law enforcement and agencies, and as the CHP Organized Crime Retail Task Force, to be successful in addressing crime. So that's why Riverside stands in support of implementing these programs and this legislation, such as expansion of the Cal VIP to prevent violent crimes in our community, and AB 331 to enforce organized retail theft laws. So I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer, this legislation will continue to make a difference in Riverside. And with that, I have the privilege of introducing another one of our big city mayors right next door to me in Riverside, Mayor Sarmiento from the city of Santa Ana.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Governor, for gathering us. Thank you, Mayor Garcia, for hosting us, and all my colleagues that are here, and all the police chiefs. You know, we had a really robust, informative conversation with law enforcement leaders throughout the state, and I think the word that I can summarize best, or a word that I can use to summarize best the conversation, was balance. We all realize that law enforcement is an important issue that is affecting all our big cities, but we also want to make sure we do it responsibly. So in Santa Ana, I know gun seizures are up. You know, we're gathering a lot more, and our homicides are down. So I want to thank, you know, my police chief in particular, because he's been courageous enough to understand that what you want to do is establish trust with the community, make sure that there are strong relationships that have been, you know, quite frankly, severed and have been difficult. It's been a difficult year. It was a difficult summer last summer, and I think the investment in making sure that we have a trust in the community, and also relieving some of our officers of what are not maybe core police functions. And by that I mean responding to welfare checks and maybe dealing with the mentally ill and our houseless population. What we can do there is, you know, make sure we have civilian folks that respond to that, public health professionals, and it relieves our officers to deal with those core police functions. And what it does is it reduces response times. And I think all that is really helpful to our community. But I think what's most important is the collaboration between mayors, the relationship that we have with the governor's office and his staff. All those things I think are going to pay dividends in investment, in prevention, being preemptive, and intervening in the lives of young people. Santa Ana being one of the youngest communities in the state, we certainly believe in that theory. So, para todos en español, le quiero agradecer especialmente al gobernador y su equipo por traernos juntos para hablar de ideas y soluciones que tenemos que hacer, porque esto de la seguridad pública es algo bien crítico para todos nosotros, especialmente nuestro pueblo inmigrante, porque muchos de nosotros, como yo como inmigrante, no tenemos esa facilidad de ir y pedir ayuda con esa seguridad que nada nos va a pasar. Entonces tenemos que trabajar unidos en ese esfuerzo. So with that, let me introduce from the 59th District, Assemblymember O'Donnell. Thank you, Assemblymember, for all that you do in the legislature.
To the left. There he is.
I don't know my left or right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Reggie Jones-Sawyer, Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer, I believe, was up prior to me. He authored the bill.
All right.
So let's
Thank
give him
you.
the honor.
Proper introduction. Reggie Jones-Sawyer, the author of this great legislation and amazing leader.
And thank you, my good friend, Assemblymember O'Donnell. You know how much I love you. Look, when this first came up with Governor Jerry Brown, we really were talking about how do we have a smart legislation? How do we deal with porch piracy, retail theft in a smart way? One, we want to make sure we actually went after the organized retail theft felons who were victimizing not only the people that they got involved in this, but also victimizing our businesses and retail. But we also wanted to make sure we had a heart. We wanted to make sure that individuals who are homeless, on drugs, would be able to get services. And so I want to thank this governor for not only continuing moving this along, because we had a sunset, we had to move that, and then we had to reenact it. We probably could do a movie on how many hurdles we went through to get this done, but it was that important to this governor. And this governor has also put in billions of dollars to make sure that those individuals can move into services, whether it's drug rehab, education, employment, so that they can permanently get out of organized retail theft. Because that's the ultimate goal here, is to marry both philosophies coming together to cure a problem that's plaguing California right now. And so, am I introducing you now? I'm gonna go for it. So, my assembly mate, and he sits across the way from me, Assemblymember Patrick O'Donnell will now speak, and I just want to leave by saying I want to thank Governor Newsom, because this is so important right now that we continue this work that the CHP has been successfully doing for over 2 years now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good job. Well, thank you, Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer, for authoring AB 331, and thank you, Governor, for signing AB 331 very shortly. What AB 331 simply does is protect businesses just like this one. Small businesses, big businesses across the state of California. Organized retail theft is real, it is dangerous, it is bold, and it is scary to see. Myself, not too long ago, in a mall down the 405, sorry, Mayor Garcia, outside of Long Beach, I was shopping, and I saw a couple cars pull up in front of a Macy's. A couple individuals jumped out, ran into the Macy's, grabbed as much as they could, ran out of Macy's, loaded it all into a car, and took off, all within about a minute and a half. So organized retail theft is real. So I appreciate the effort here today, and I also appreciate what we've done through the budget is bringing a balance and making sure that we're investing in youth so that they don't fall into a life of crime. Myself, I'm a high school teacher, and I think it's a big deal that California is also taking the opportunity we have right now to invest in our youth so they don't head down the wrong path. With that, it is my honor to introduce Amanda Ray, and she is the Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol, which is playing a big part in this effort.
Thank you there, Assemblymember O'Donnell, and thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Ray. I'm the Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Governor Newsom for his leadership and commitment to public safety. I would also like to thank the Governor for signing Assembly Bill 331, which will extend the CHP's organized crime theft task forces, our operations all the way into 2026. I would also like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Highway Patrol to extend my appreciation to Assemblymember Jones-Sawyer for his dedication to this legislation. So, as the Commissioner of the Highway Patrol, I'm extremely proud of the collaborative efforts of the task force members, the Department of Justice, and our local law enforcement partners. Organized crime retail theft has become a $30 billion criminal industry that often uses the illicit proceeds that they get from that to fund other crimes. Some of the other crimes that those monies are used for are vehicle theft, identity theft, human trafficking, and narcotics trafficking. Since the task force became operational in November of 2019, the regional teams have either led or assisted the local law enforcement and all of our partners throughout the state with 668 investigations. We made over 252 arrests, and we also recovered over $16.3 million worth of stolen merchandise. So as the largest state law enforcement agency in the nation, the CHP remains committed to identifying geographical regions that are experiencing these thefts and these high property crimes. And we're also committed to continuing to work with our partners and our allied agency partners, our retail theft partners, so that we can put a dent in this problem. However, we can't do this alone. We need you, the public, our communities. We need our public partners to assist us in this effort. And so to do this, we set up right now we have an email that you can contact us. It is called reportretailtheft.com@chp.ca.gov. So again, I'll say that, reportretailtheft@chp.ca.gov. And additionally, we're also currently in the process of building a web-based tip line on our CHP website so that the community members, the California retailers, that they all can report activity related to retail crimes. So we're really excited about that. So that, if you want to find out more about that, you can go on chp.ca.gov for that. So together, the CHP's task force, California retailers, the communities we serve, and our allied agency partners really have to work together to make sure that we can combat this crime. If you want more information about the CHP's organized retail theft program, you can find that information on our website that I stated earlier. The CHP is and always will be dedicated to public safety, service, and security. So with that, thank you again, Governor, for signing this bill. Thank you, Assemblymember Joan Sawyer. And with that, I have the distinct privilege of introducing Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to our host mayor and to all the mayors that are assembled with me, all of us, rather, and to all the police chiefs. We just had a very informative meeting with the big 13 mayors, representing mayors from Northern, Southern, Central Valley, as well as Central Coast, and here in Southern California to discuss the issue of crime and violence in the state of California, to discuss crime trends, to reflect back on where we were in the 80s and 90s, the reform movement that subsequently took place in the late 90s and 2000s, and how this state has fared. We comparing and contrasting how we're doing vis-a-vis other states, and we shared some best practices and concerns. And so I'm very grateful to each and every chief that is with us. I'm grateful for their work. I'm grateful for the men and women in uniform, and we are incredibly humbled by this moment, because none of us are naive. You saw the headlines in Birmingham, Alabama, big increase in gun-related violence. You're seeing it all across the United States. There is not a state that has been spared an increase, particularly of gun violence, over the course of the last year. There are many theories as to the underlying causes, as to why, and good people can disagree. The bottom line at the end of the day, as members of the public, you expect us to resolve to address these issues. You expect all of us, regardless of your political stripes, regardless of geography, you expect all of us to respect you. You expect to feel some connection to your community, and you all expect, and appropriately so, to be protected. And so we're here in that spirit and in that light. We're also here for a specific purpose, and that is to highlight not just the issue of gun-related violence in the state of California, but also to highlight the issues that our retail community is facing. This is not new in the state of California. As the Assembly member noted, we've been organized in a very deliberative manner to address the issue of organized retail crime for a number of years. That said, we are doubling down on those efforts today with this bill that I'll be signing here in a moment. We've all seen the images of people rushing in. Assemblymember was right to highlight just one of them at Macy's. You're seeing them all across the state of California, those organized efforts, and they are organized, disproportionate efforts, and we want to go after those rings. We want to go after those organized, organized teams of folks that are connected not just within communities, but all across the state of California. We were successful, as the commissioner noted, over the course of the last few years with those close to 700 investigations that led to 252 arrests and tens of millions of dollars of recovered property. But we want to work to do even more and better moving forward. The state of California has no police department. It has the California Highway Patrol. That does not negate our responsibility and our role to work with local law enforcement, to work with local DAs, to work with local elected officials to address the issue of violence and to organize in a strategic and regional basis our efforts. And that's exactly what this legislation will afford us the right to do. CHP has to be invited in. There are some regulatory hurdles from CHP working in this capacity. Those issues are addressed in this legislation. Millions of dollars was put in the budget to support these efforts in anticipation of the success of this legislative effort. Those dollars codified, and those dollars now are available for this operation. This is one of many different CHP operations in the state of California. We also will be expanding those operations across the spectrum, not just in terms of retail efforts. We continue in our efforts to address the issue of gun safety and gun crimes. I should note, and it's important to note, in 1993, California was had the third highest gun death rate in America in 1993. In 2017, it's the most contemporary data that we have, we were the 7th lowest, from the 3rd highest to the 7th lowest. We know how to produce results. California has led in terms of gun safety. It's led in terms of common sense gun safety reform. We recognize the headwinds, 39.7 million reasons to underscore that. That's the number of people not living in the state of California, but coincidentally, a number of people that got FBI background checks last year for the purchases of guns. It's the largest number of gun purchases in American history. We're up against a gun epidemic, and every police chief we talk to, from Bakersfield to Fresno to Oakland to Sacramento, here in parts of Southern California, all laid claim to a deep appreciation to the proliferation of guns on our streets all across this state. And so we have work to do in that space. We have work always to do, not just situationally to address these issues head on as it relates to current crime trends, but to address the underlying issues more comprehensively. And I appreciate the reference from Mayor Garcetti and others to what we are doing this year, which is an historic investment. $9 million last year went into a program called CalVIP, which is to deal with the underlying issues associated with crime and violence in the state. $200 million this year. $9 million last year, $200 million this year. Evidence-based strategies to address the root causes of crime and to more systemically address those issues. Real discretion, real opportunity to build collaborations and partnerships, proven strategies, proven partnerships at the local level. We want to build on that, and as Assemblymember O'Donnell said, we recognize that it's not just in that crime bucket that we build on things. We focus on after-school programs. We focus on preschool. We focus across the spectrum, the educational spectrum in particular, to deal with some of the fundamental issues that lead to a life of crime and violence in the first place. And I'll just remind each and every one of you, and I'll close with two final points, that the state of California, because of the Assembly's leadership, the Senate's leadership, we are poised to fully implement an after-school for all program, $5 billion commitment over the next few years, fully implement after school for all Californians universally, fully implement summer school for all Californians universally because of this budget, and we have invested in universal mental health care for everyone 0 to 25. That was an additional $4 billion investment. And I appreciate, Mayor, the work that you've done historically on the issues of mental health and behavioral health. So we're looking at this comprehensively. Yes, enforcement is critical. Accountability is critical. And let me just make this point. There's no free ride. You can't smash a window. Melissa's worked too hard at the Hangout to build this business. She doesn't deserve that. Someone to come in, steal product from this business, to take away her ability to live her life, all the opportunities she's creating for this community. We need to hold folks to account, but we'll do it in a thoughtful and judicious way. We're not going back to the way things were in the 80s and 90s, at least not while I'm here. That said, we need to see more accountability, we need to see enforcement, and we need a commensurate commitment to address the reforms that I think many of us behind me embrace and have long embraced in California that have proven successful in this state. We are not going to back up on our commitment to reform. At the same time, we're not going to walk away from accountability either. And so that's the spirit that brings us here today. With that in mind, I know you're eager to ask questions, and you got a lot of mayors here. I know they're eager to answer the questions. But let's first do what we told the Assembly member we would do while he came up, and that's sign his bill and make this legislative effort, 331, the law in the state of California, and not allow the commissioner to get moving on this task force. With that,
All right.
thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you.
So this is just, as I said, one of...
Keep the pen, or you
This
save
is your pen.
No.
I'm going to keep the legislation, though. I know we're going to need that. In fact, my staff needs to grab this before we get in trouble. I don't have a staff, so I'll just make sure I don't lose it. Yeah, give it. We actually have to. That's been lost before, and I paid real price for that. With that, we're happy now to answer any questions.
Governor, first question back there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, Lauren Lister from Channel 5. Just a couple things. So I was just speaking to an LA deputy district attorney saying robberies are getting quite serious, saying that there's no disincentive to use guns in these crimes because the DA's office is no longer filing gun enhancements. I was wondering if anyone could comment on that. And then, Governor, one on COVID, why not require some kind of use of vaccine passports in California to help curb transmission rates?
Well, as it relates to COVID, I just want to note today we passed threshold 76.6% of all adults in the state of California have received at least one shot. Just shy of 75% of folks 12 and over. We have among the highest vaccination rates in the United States, but still not good enough. We're very mindful of the Delta variant, and its spread now represents over 60% in California of sequence cases, over 83%, as you've seen nationally. The most important thing we can do to get this pandemic behind us is to get vaccinated. And I want to encourage everybody that hasn't gotten vaccinated to get vaccinated. Also encourage you, if you're hesitant to get vaccinated, consider the words of those that are in ICUs and hospitals right now. And the universal regret, listen to their words, not mine. The universal regret is, coulda, woulda. I wish I had gotten vaccinated. And so that's the most important message moving forward. Now, as it relates to the issue of enhancements, as it relates to the adjudication of these crimes and the penal code sections, they amply exist, not only as it relates to guns, but also as it relates to retail theft and burglary, as it relates to recidivism in this space. And I would just encourage those that are in that line of work to take seriously these crimes, these crime patterns, to take seriously these reoffenses, and be a little bit more proactive in terms of the not just enforcement, but the adjudication, or rather the prosecution of these crimes. I think we can achieve both our goals at the same time. I can't speak to specifics in one city. Perhaps the mayor wishes to do so, but more broadly, that's the message I want to communicate.
And I'm requiring vaccine passports?
As it relates to the issue of vaccinations, that's unnecessary if we continue to see an increase in vaccinations. We're among the top 10 states, I think 11 states in terms of single doses, and I want to encourage people who are unvaccinated to get vaccinated.
Thank you.
Governor, good morning. Margaret Carrero, KNX Radio. With regard to the bill that you just signed, aside from extending the CHP's retail crime task force, can you kind of lay out as clearly as you can what else this law entails, what it does? And then I also have another question with regard to COVID, if you start there.
Great. I'm going to ask the commissioner, because she can talk in more pragmatic terms about the work they've done since 2019 as it relates to the investigations, as it relates to the collaborative framework that has been advanced in cities large and small, in Northern California and San Francisco down here, working in partnership with DAs, not just local elected officials and local agencies. Perhaps, Commissioner, you can talk more specifically about some of those regionalized efforts.
Yes, absolutely. It's a little warm in here. So, yes. So, as you know, with this being a statewide law enforcement agency, and us collaborating in different locations, right now we have 3 task forces that are going to be operating. One is going to be operating in the Golden Gate area. That's going to cover the Bay Area. The second one will be down in San Diego area, which will cover Orange and Orange County and San Diego County. And then we will have the third one, which is going to be down in the Inland Division area. So we have 3 in the greater Los Angeles area. So there's going to be 3 task forces that are going to be operating initially. And what we've done since 2019 is we've leveraged all of our resources, and we've leveraged the resources of some of our partners back here to really identify areas and locations where we see these things happening, and then we kind of just push all the resources into those locations to really be able to combat this. So that's kind of what we've been doing since 2019. Having the bill being signed, having resources being allocated is going to give us the ability to do more of that. It's going to be able to give us the ability to collaborate more with our law enforcement agency partners and also with the retailers. So I think this is the biggest one that we're doing this year that we're going to add is going to be the tip line. You know, being able to have the public be a part of this is going to be huge because, as we know, most of the time it's going to be someone who lived in that neighborhood or someone who maybe knows someone who can call in, and really they could be anonymous. They can do it however they want, but they can call in and give us valuable information that we can use really to be able to combat more of this. So very happy with what we've been able to do so far, but definitely there's more work to be done. And I think with the resources we've been given, with the bill being signed for us to be able to move forward, and even the conversations that we had earlier today, being able to discuss just some of the things with all of the mayors and all of the police chiefs, I think we're all on the same page and going to be able to move this forward. So that's what I think we'll be able to do.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And Governor, another question with regard to COVID, if I may. Yesterday you said if we can get more people vaccinated that we would not need a new statewide mask mandate. But we've got COVID cases going up with the Delta variant. We've got hospitalizations going up. Will you at any point be willing to require that masks be worn indoors for all
We are
people
not
to get to that
ideological.
point?
At no point in this pandemic have we been ideological. We're open argument, interested in evidence. So we've maintained that consistently. And so I'll maintain that today as it relates to any subsequent decisions on the basis of epidemiology, and the basis of science, and the basis of the status of our healthcare delivery system, in particular, as you wisely point out. And so on that basis, we stand firm. I want to applaud local decision making that's been done, not just here in Southern California. It's not just LA, as you know, Pasadena, but in Northern California. Over 50% now of Californians are in jurisdictions where there's at least some form of recommendation for mask wearing. And as you know well, we are requiring masking for all of our kids to return safely in person this fall, and we are committed to making sure that is successful. There's no evidence of that in the last few years. In fact, San Francisco initiated the first partnership with the CHP in the district attorney's office as it relates to organized retail theft. We distinguish organized retail theft from one-off shoplifting, which is problematic in and of itself, but this is an organized retail theft framework, and we are invited in these partnerships and these collaborations. They're regionalized all across the state of California, and I'm not willing to throw up my hands and suggest that somehow we're going to see huge impediment to our collective effort to address these organized efforts. And I have no expectation of that, and I don't think the commissioner has necessarily seen a lot of reticence as it relates to local support for these efforts.
No, not at all. Actually, one of the cases that we had was actually out of San Francisco, along with Chief Scott's team. We went over there. That case netted about an $8.1 million. We were able to recover $8.1 million worth of assets and merchandise that had been stolen. So I would say that they've been very supportive, and very supportive in these efforts and what we're doing. So, yeah, so that's.
And Chief Scott, I hate to put you on, but Chief Scott came all the way down from San Francisco. Why don't we take advantage? Forgive me, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Look, I mean, it's a challenge, but we are committed to working with our district attorney. As the commissioner said, we had some success, and with the leadership of the State Assembly and Assemblymember Joan Sawyer and our governor, I think we'll have more success. So it's a challenge, I'll be honest with you, but it's not insurmountable.
Is it a challenge working with the DA's office?
No, the overall problem is a challenge. The brazenness of some of these crimes. Look, I mean, people, when they see these things go viral, the perception of lawlessness, the perception that anything goes, really, that has to be overcome too, because people fear crime when they see it the way we're seeing it go viral. So we have to not only deal with the actual people that are doing it and hold them to account, but we also have to balance the message that we are doing something about it. And that's why I'm so happy with my partners here and the governor's leadership and the State Assembly, because we're going to balance that narrative. Thank you.
Your last two questions back here.
Governor Newsom, Sid Garcia with Channel 7 Eyewitness News. First question, sir. Do you see a point where citizens are going to have to show proof of vaccination in order to enter buildings? And the second follow-up, Adrienne Alpert, our Newsmakers host, where you've been a guest, is retiring. Would you mind just wishing her a happy retirement, sir?
You're a big fan. She's been good to you?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the mayor.
I already did my video, don't worry.
Oh, you did? Okay. maybe we could do it on the way out so I can personalize it. Look, as it relates to any mandates, the masking mandate to get our kids back into person, full-time instruction this fall is the mandate that we're moving forward with. We do not have vaccine passports. We do have digitized vaccine cards, which millions of Californians have availed themselves to, but we distinguish that from any passports or mandates as it relates to that. We subscribe to a point of view that local businesses can make determinations for themselves of what's appropriate or not, including employers.
Governor Alex Michelson, Fox 11 News. On the issue of vaccinations, you have done so much. Traveled the state, offered millions of dollars, offered so many giveaways, and yet there are still millions of Californians who are saying, no, I don't want it. How do you get through to those people? And if those people still refuse, how do you do public policy acknowledging that maybe they're never going to take it?
Well, we got to meet people where they are. I know it sounds rote and cliched. What I mean by that, we now have 500 partners, 500 community-based organizations we partnered with. We extended contracts, and we included a number of new contracts. We are moving away from fixed sites. All these mayors have done the same, to mobile sites. We're in barbershops. We're working in partnership with churches. We are trying to combat the misinformation on these right-wing shows, these right-wing pundits that are simply ideological about this. It was nice to see one of them last night or 2 nights ago finally acknowledge the truth about science and the efficacy of these vaccines on one of the big networks, but we need to see more of that. We need to see more courage of convictions for those that have privately gotten the vaccine but are out there preaching somehow that these vaccines are unsafe or leading the public astray on them. Vaccines save lives. You want to move beyond this. You want to deal with not having to deal with masking. You want to not have to deal with any trepidation anymore around having to read about this variant or that variant. Get vaccinated. We can end this thing quickly. If everybody just went out, got vaccinated, it's free, no requirement, cost, status. Get vaccinated, get that second shot in a few weeks. In a month or so, this could substantially, at least in California, be behind us. And so we have work to do. We're not going to give up. And let me just say this as well. There's a lot of misinformation, but there's also a lot of understandable anxiety that some people still have. And that's why, in closing, we just did a $40 million partnership with small physician networks. There's no greater trusted messenger than your own doctor. We just did $40 million of grants to get small doctors, small practices involved so they can counsel and address the anxiety and concern in a confidential way with individuals. And that program we just launched a few days ago, and we hope it also will substantially aid in our efforts to get people vaccinated. With that, let me just thank, means a lot, Mayor Garcetti being here, but Mayor Garcia in particular for his incredible leadership down in Long Beach, always inspired by the work he's doing, and very grateful that we're here in his backyard. His eager and enthusiastic support of this retail theft task force is the reason. If you want to know why we're here, is the mayor was very pointed in terms of his embrace of this partnership. Each mayor here represents a mayor that's not sitting on the sideline. They're working hard to address these issues and will continue to do so with the support of the state of California. Thank you all very much for being here.